Welcome back, flower friends and family. We are so happy to be back with you. We today are taking a question from one of our listeners. We have had a number of people write in, but one particularly sort of sparked our attention where she was asking whether, how to get started as a practitioner and where did we start and what did we need to know in order to get our practices going. We thought this was a good and fertile ground for a discussion, and we were looking forward to diving into that. This spring has been really busy already. I don't know what it's like where you are, but here in California, we've had a really wet winter, and it keeps raining periodically, and we've just got grass coming up to our ears here. It's pretty extraordinary, and I need to get out in my garden and get some work in. But I've also been busy with Ruth Toledo Altschuler at the School for Flower Essence Studies, teaching a course on, or our second version of a course on Bach flowers in contemporary practice, which is a really fun deep dive into the Bach flowers. And we choose two flowers for each day's session and spend an hour working with each one. And the level of insights that are coming through and that the participants are sharing such great content. So I'm hoping that if you have an interest in Bach flowers, you'll consider joining us at one of these current, present, or upcoming Bach flower courses. So thanks so much. And what's going on in your world, Ro?
Well, like you said, with the grasses, this allergy season is no joke in California, and I'm definitely feeling it. So, that being said, the projects going on is incredible. We have all of the classes going on with the school. We are launching a group coaching program for flower essence practitioners wanting to open their doors for business and get some feedback on their cases and some support, some group support, some mentoring, some peer support, and ideas for how to launch a business. And so that's really exciting. And that's coming up in May. Um, and, I also do web design and web development. Not many people might know that, but um, obviously all of the work for the School for Flower Essence Studies, the websites and the content and graphics and email, that's all coming from me. So I also do that for other clients, and that has kept me very busy. Um, and I love to do that, especially for new practitioners who are kind of like-minded like us. Maybe they've finished their flower essence training and want to get online and get their business going. So that's who I help, and I do love to do that as well. So all of those things together do make it quite busy. So I've actually paused my essence practice for a bit so that I can keep up with all of the work. But I still just, it's kind of like living, eating, and breathing flower essences no matter what, whether I'm doing it for a client or for myself or working on educational content for the school. This is, it's really, I love blending these things. I love blending these two things. And I'm so happy that I can do it with you, Kathleen, and with our partner, Ruth.
Well, you're certainly brilliant at it, and we really we really appreciate your skill and facility with creating messaging and helping people to understand what it is we're offering, because that's really the trick. I know that when I took flower essence practitioner training years ago in the early aughts, I thought, yeah, I want to do this, and went to get the training and did all the things and got the certificate. And then it was like, okay, and now what? How do you get started? How do you tell people about what you do? How do you explain to them in ways that make sense, that they really resonate with? And I've learned a few things over the years. I don't have the web design background you have, and I'm grateful to be able to get your help with things. But I did spend a lot of time in business development, in mastermind groups, and in networking, and just working with a lot of other women, largely women's groups, that were working in the healing fields. And so I got to really know a lot of people and got to see a lot of the different challenges. And that's really one of the, when I joined a mastermind group, I thought what I was getting was that what they call hot seat time. Unfortunately, I was in a warm and supportive group. So the hot seat is really more like a warm, cozy couch. But I thought that that was the point of it, is that I would get this time to get this focus on my business and, get me sorted out and moving on. But really what I learned is that every single person in that group, the facilitator and all the participants had something really useful for me to learn from, to be able to watch them go through the processes, to learn like how to run the business, how to, present yourself, how to do a presentation, how to talk to people, how to talk to your potential clients. It is a skill set and it can be learned, but you got to realize that you don't know it first in order to get started.
Absolutely. And it's it sounds like we're talking about all business when we're answering how to become a flower essence practitioner. Well, the practitioner training, I mean, there's we have practitioner training at our school. There's other practitioner training. That's the baseline for getting your flower essence training, and of course using it and doing your cases. But in order to do it as a professional, to do it as it is starting a business. And there is a lot to starting a business, especially your own, and especially in a field or a modality like flower essence therapy that has a lot of wiggle room. It's kind of what you make it. And so there's an entrepreneurial mindset to put on to define what you do and how you want to do it. It's not so black and white with step, A, B, C, do it, everybody do it this one way, and then you're gonna, be that. So there's nothing, for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's not a officially licensed profession, like a doctor would be, or even a massage therapist now in the United States. So there's certain things that you do, and then there's a network of support that you get when you start to go out into those very um, known businesses. And with anything like herbalism or flower essence therapy or any kind of healing, those are what are considered unlicensed professions. And so there is support, of course, with networking groups for doing these things. But flower essences themselves, even in that umbrella of these unlicensed healing professions, are are much less known. And so we have this huge task of not only starting our business and putting the word about what we do, but what flower essence therapy even is to begin with, and how it can help people. So there is a lot to consider with that, and it will take, if it's not something that you're used to doing, it, like you're saying, Kathleen, it takes some practice. It's just not something that, if it doesn't come naturally to you, it'll take some practice to work at.
And how do we, this is where the essences start to come in because so many of the challenges, this is where it is so amazing to be a flower essence practitioner talking about this topic because so many of the challenges that emerge as part of this process of putting yourself out there, of talking about what you do, about sharing your own experiences, which is what helps people really get to feel like they, can trust you. A lot of those things, there are blocks in there, and it was so fun to watch other people in other professions that maybe didn't have these, wonderful skill sets. I'm like, ooh, I know the essence for that. It's such a challenge to put yourself out there and to speak up and to be seen. It can be really terrifying. A lot of us, I know I did this when I first started. When I wanted to talk about flower essences, I kind of wanted to hide behind somebody else's work. And I've really learned that in order to be seen as a practitioner, in order for clients to recognize that they want to work with me versus just like figure it out themselves or, you know, work with somebody else, is they need to feel like they can see me. Need to feel like they know a little bit about me. And that is really kind of terrifying for a lot of us who are very sensitive. We don't really want to be out in the spotlight that much. And, having to sort of put yourself out there is really scary. So starting with some essences for self-confidence can be a really good part of starting to unwind some of these blocks and impediments to your process. I know, Ro, that when you're working with people, when you're helping them decide how they want to share what they do, you're really advising them about essences with this, very kind of more normal business advice.
Yeah, I absolutely have done that in my flower essence practice. There's been a couple situations where I've also had the same client be a business client. And so that was a beautiful way to combine those two worlds because in one case we were working on her logo and just going she had so many ideas going in so many different directions, and it was very um it was changing a lot. And so I thought this would be a good time to bring in the essences and get some grounding and clarity on the goals and the values that this client had, and sort of settle all of the swirl that was going around. Um, in order to really sit and feel what the direction should be. And so we made the agreement to do that work for a few months before really diving headfirst into my other task of actually creating the logo. And, it worked out really well. And I wish I could do that with all my business clients because it it is something that is so common when we are building our business and we are trying to figure out what our brand is going to be, what our offerings are going to be, how we're going to present ourselves to the world. It brings up so much stuff. It brings up how we look at ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we want other people to see us, and how we want other people to respond to our business. And so that is really profound work to do with or without the essences, to really journal that and work with that before putting down a chunk of money to get something built for you. If you haven't done that and you start working with a website designer or a logo designer, you'll quickly see that that is a really important first step of the process. And the more you can do that, and the sooner you can do that, the less wheel spinning that will happen for both sides of the project.
Because then you're actually going to be getting an expression of you. That when people see that logo, branding, website, they're actually going to see something that reflects you. I know that I've seen a lot of circumstances where people have, like you say, paid, a good chunk of change for the website that they thought they needed. But you look at it and you've met them and you're thinking, I don't see any sort of correspondence here at all. This doesn't look like this person to me. It doesn't sound like this person. There's no like full through resonance of, this flowering of this individual. I know that when I worked with a designer for my Flora of Asia brand years ago, she gave me a branding brief to start working on it. And when I got it back to her, she was kind of astonished because she said that this is the most complete branding brief she'd ever received. And I had really spent a lot of time, and this was the key, is that I was working with a friend who had a background in business and marketing, where we really just spent hours just going through ideas and going through thoughts and what's really resonant for these essences and what am I bringing to the table. And that's the work. It's not that you can just hand it to somebody and pay them and have that show up amazingly. It's going to look like something that was sort of, pasted together. It might look great, but it's not you at all.
Yeah, and the flip side of the coin is trying to bring all of your entire personality into your business brand. And we are multidimensional people with a lot of facets, and it's really kind of impossible to do that and then to make it make sense for your audience of who you want to attract. It goes all over the place, and it might not be what your audience is looking for. So, this is a big learning as well, that your website isn't for you. It's for your audience. And so what is it that they will relate to, and what will they respond to? And we want to infuse it with our personality, but we don't want it to be our personality. We want it to be our business and what we want to attract for our business. So that is very challenging for people who have multiple modalities and multiple um, interests and a lot of stuff that they want to get put out in the world too. And that's where working to hone that down into a business offering that makes sense is very important. And a lot of flower essence practitioners fall into this because flower essences combine so well with so many other modalities. And a lot of times these practitioners will also be doing massage therapy or be doing, some other kind of um, healing or wellness work. So isn't just about me as a personality. It's about what I'm offering, but also in organizing it in a way that is going to connect with the people that you want to offer it to.
And this is really where a community element is really helpful, because you have to practice. You have to sort of feel what people are connecting to and attracted to about what you have to offer. And you rarely nail it on the head the first time. You know, everyone I've ever talked to who's been in business for any amount of time has tried a bunch of different things, has tried, the rebranding project is sort of a lifelong one. So don't get connected to the illusion that you're going to just like lock it in and that'll be your, who you are forever. Who you are as a practitioner will grow and evolve. But get started, trying some things out. This is really the advantage of working in a group. And this is why we've been inspired to create this mentoring circle, because we're all so separate. There are not 80 of us in every town. We tend to be really widely spread, and we don't have a lot of opportunities to sit and circle together and discuss these challenges and find out what's working for other people too. It's not just about, you having to do it all on your own, having to figure out how to message on your own. You might find out like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people out there who are responding to somebody else's message, and that's in alignment with what you offer too. So you can really learn a lot from hearing other people, what they're succeeding with, and maybe what also didn't really work well for them.
And just to hear other people's questions, it's something that you might not have even thought about. So there's so much learning that's happening in a sort of a non-classroom ex way that is more experiential, it's more group mind, it's more uh, learning by observing, learning by interacting. I think that there's so many benefits to this sort of group mentoring approach that you don't get in any other way.
It's exactly right. It's hanging out with other people who are in the same sort of position as you, who are in the same, who are wrestling with the same challenges, who are, maybe they're earlier or later in their project process than you, but you can all learn something from each other and feel that community of support that is, it's really rare. I certainly didn't get it. I reached out to people who were in maybe parallel types of situations, but to be able to create this the benefit of now is that we can do this non-locally, and that we can bring in people from all over the world and be able to support each other in a community situation, so that we can bring, bottom line, we want more people to know that flower essences can help them. The mental health crisis is huge and real, and people need support. And the fact is that not that many people know that flower essences are safe, effective, and can help them. And that's bottom line is we want to support anybody who wants to share that message and to help other people and animals and the world.
Yeah. And going back to some of these common blocks that we have when starting businesses, and especially, like I say, in the flower essence modality, because it's so little known, I think it feels even more scary or overwhelming. I know that when I started as a practitioner, I was sort of surprised by how hard it was because I had already had a successful career in business, working for big companies, doing really doing a lot of high level work and being giving presentations and uh, presentations to executives, like all sorts of stuff that over the years I started out not doing it, being able to do it well, and then I grew and I was able to do that. And I ended that work feeling very confident about myself and my abilities. And then when I pivoted to flower essence work, all of a sudden putting myself out there felt cr- like it just was impossible. Like I just didn't know how to do it. And and that was actually surprising because I felt like I had already overcome that with my previous work. And boom, it's really different when you're on your own, when you don't have a company or a business that you're a part of, that you see how other people are doing it and you can easily kind of mimic what they're doing and follow along. And all of a sudden, when you're just hanging out there by yourself and then people are looking at you for you, not because you're not part of anything, like you're not part of a company. They're looking at you. I mean, that was uh, shockingly difficult for me to begin. And when we first started this podcast, it was very challenging to get on here and chat with you like we do today. And it's a lot more comfortable today than it was when we started.
You do get better by doing things. It's really true. It is terrifying. I mean, I would definitely categorize myself as being, like a Mimulus type where I just afraid of putting myself out there, and I would just kind of try to hide in the shadows as much as I possibly could. But that won't really get you anywhere when it's on you. It's like you have to learn how to do it your way, but you do got to do it. And I think that, this is really a case where Sunflower comes in and starts to help support us. Because one of the things that a lot of us have been taught is to like follow along. It's totally fine when you're presenting something or talking about something that's supporting somebody else, or you've got a company, like you said, you got a company behind you. But for us to stand up and say, here I am, I can be of help, it just brings up every kind of insecurity in the world, and you get to hear all the who do you think you are. Scary. And
Yeah,
Sunflower helps us stand up a little bit and go, I'm me. It's good enough.
the imposter syndrome is so strong. And there's one that I also like for that, which isn't listed per se in the FES repertory, but it's Goldenrod. And I've made the California Goldenrod essence myself, and I just got such an amazing amount of information from that process. And if you've ever met that plant, it's this tall, yellow flowered plume that's just like a torch. It's like a flame. I think of it like when you see in the movies, or like those big tiki torches, or something that you're going to go explore the caves with in the movies. And it's a beacon of light that helps to strengthen our will and stand in our power. At the same time, being true to ourselves. And I think that it encourages us to shine that light and know that just by doing that, that simple act of being who we are and shining our light, it's inspiring to others. So it reminds us of that. And that really helps with the imposter syndrome, because if you don't have to be an expert to be of service. You don't have to know everything to start your business. You just have to know a little bit more. That's it. If you know just a little bit more than the next person, you can help that next person. And that is something that I've had to remind myself over and over again, because I like to learn it. I just have the kind of brain that wants to learn everything and become the expert. And I don't feel like I can put myself out there until I do that. So it's a reminder I have to give myself all the time. And I love Goldenrod for that. It's just a use that hasn't been documented. I haven't seen it documented that way by anyone else, but I got that feeling so powerfully when I worked one-on-one with that plant. So it's one to try.
It's really in alignment with the way I understand goldenrod, because what I use it for and what I see it for is for when we are drawn off track of our own knowing. When we really want to blend into that field and let other people be the authority for us. Those other people have it all figured out. I'll just do what they're doing. I'll just follow along with the crowd. And it's really essential as a sole practitioner, as a sole, small business person, to know who you are, because this is another huge trap, is to, the first person that comes along that speaks really confidently and says, "Oh yeah, I can have your business up and running." I mean, like we've all seen these ads, like, get a six-figure business by the end of 90 days. Yeah, no, that's not really how it works. No, that's not how ethical businesses work. You can spend a lot of money chasing people that will give you those promises, but first off, they don't really care to get to know you. They're not building a business for you. They're trying to fit you into, a round hole over there that they've created. And that's not who you are, and that's not going to be a business that, a practice that suits you. You're going to be perpetually wearing somebody else's clothing. And it's never going to feel right. It doesn't support your growth. It doesn't support your clients. It's just, it's just a terrible trap. And I think that goldenrod really helps you to get to know who you are and not fall prey to all of those, people waving shiny objects at you that promise the world. It takes time to build your business. It takes a lot of, clarity and self-examination to figure out who you are. But what you were just saying now is that don't wait to start. The process is the practice. There's the second aspect, and I don't know if you have thoughts on this, but it's that the second trap is getting ready to get ready. You know, you feel like, oh no, I'll take another training. I'll do another thing, and then I'll be ready. And guess what? That ready never comes.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get sucked into what you were saying about those promises. And it's not just about the marketing promises, but also the courses. Because as soon as you start working on your business and you're on social media of any kind, you'll really be targeted. You'll get a lot. And don't get me started about the coaching coaches circle that seems to never end. People are selling packages that are not necessarily what's going to work for you. So learning is good, and learn all that you can. Join groups, and read books, and uh, do research, of course, but be careful. Yeah, beware of the shiny objects, as you call them, Kathleen.
And looking, continuing on the goldenrod topic, and sunflower and goldenrod are good, north star guiders. Wild oat can't be missed in this conversation, because wild oat helps you find the path, the direction, the practice that's yours, not one that was built for someone else. Because each one of us is creating an organic being in our practice. We do not have the same clients. We don't speak to the same people. We don't work exactly the same. Flower essences and the practice of flower essence therapy is like the polar opposite of a widget. There is no way to standardize and, make it exactly the same where you could just swap out a practitioner. So that's really, it feels really big and scary, but it's actually a real beautiful thing, because then you can bring all of you into your practice. And like you were saying, that overwhelm, because so many of us have come with a lot of knowledge. We've studied, we've read, we've taken courses, not just about essences, about a lot of other things. And our life experience is all coming in to this process, and letting your people see a little bit of who you are and what your experience is will help them to be interested in you and to trust you, like, hey, this person's been through something similar. And I really think that speaks to a lot of our potential client bases. I work with a lot of people who have experienced trauma. My history of being a cult survivor, people hear that and go, oh, she's not going to be overwhelmed by me sharing something, because, I experienced a lot of things and I've heard a lot of things, and I know how to create a container for that. I know how to help people. I've been there. I've walked out of that deep, scary, awful pit. And I can help other people do that too. So that's not everybody's practice, but that's a big part of my practice.
And you went through a process to find that out about how you wanted that to be part of your offerings and present that and talk about that. And that could not have been an easy process.
It's a process of self-discovery. You have to do your work, but you do your work while you're doing your work. You don't working as a practitioner at whatever level you're at is your starting place. And you do your inner work while you're doing that work. So don't wait until you're perfect to get started, because I can tell you that ain't never going to happen.
And it's not it it's not static. There's always change happening with that. As soon as you think or say to yourself, okay, I want to attract this kind of client, or I'm really into this kind of thing right now, then that changes as you're doing your work and you're working with people doing that work. And then you're growing and you're changing and you're coming into other challenges that you're working with. And then you want to bring that into your practice. So that that because this practice revolves around not just the self-development of others, but our own self-development, it does make it really ever changing. And, you could look at it as, say, dentistry hasn't really changed that much in over the years, except they've gotten better technology. So they still, will have new machines that they have to learn, and but the core of it really hasn't changed. But so I kind of look at it as like this is our, our spiritual upgrades that we have to take into account for our business. We might not be getting like technical upgrades like some professions, but we certainly have a changing dynamic that we're faced with for our businesses. And then to top that off, we've got the changing dynamic of humanity and the world. I mean, everybody's businesses pivoted when the pandemic hit. And so you never know like what can come around the bend. And so there is this sense of needing to have flexibility and be able to pivot for a variety of reasons in your business and your business thinking, and keeping that sort of flexible mindset.
It is important because you always want to have your finger on the pulse of what's alive about your practice, of what's alive about you. This continuing education, it's continuing inner education and continuing outer education. And life is when you're constantly learning and growing, and so your practice and your business will continually learn and grow, and you will continually learn and grow. And so there's no static, like, I'm locked it in. This is my audience and they shall never change. And I think that's kind of a little bit what you were talking about.
Yeah, I really feel like business is a spiritual practice, which is so weird to say out loud. Um, because the word business, it just brings up, in mind, you just something completely different. But it if you're working your business like this, it is a spiritual practice. And, what could be more fulfilling when you can align those things?
So many of us have been raised to believe that you should just give it all away. Or, you can do that if you're a member of an association or a community or whatever that's, you know, keeping the lights on and feeding you. But most of us aren't in that position. We do have to make a living in the world. And we can do what we love, but we have to make sure that, our business is taken care of. I mean, one of the tricky bits is to figure out this sort of separation between me and my business. Sometimes we can get those two things connected. And supporting and feeding and growing your business is not just about feeding and supporting you. It is about who you serve and the people you serve. And you can't keep doing that if you're unsustainable, if the business is unsustainable. So I think that's maybe a little bit of what you're talking about is you have to value yourself. You have to value the service and the offering that you are providing in a way that allows you to keep doing it.
Absolutely. It's saying that it's a spiritual practice doesn't mean it's free. We have to live and we have to support ourselves. And in order to be a resource for someone else, we have to be resourced ourselves. There's really no other way about it. And we don't live in the times where the community is resourcing us like they might have in the olden days of having a um, shaman or somebody, a medicine woman for the tribe that would have been supported. And we don't have that anymore. So we have to have these things support us. And I think that's a really hard hurdle for some people, some healers and people in the healing community, because there is a sense of I shouldn't charge for these services, or a true healer wouldn't charge for these services. And it it doesn't I don't buy it. I don't see how it would make somebody a better healer to not charge for their services when they need to be resourced in order to do what they do well, and to be able to do it coming from a place of service that has reciprocity involved in it. it's not sustainable, as you say. And so part of us getting to that place of feeling good about our rates, or feeling, being able to accept that, yes, these are our rates, and this is how I can talk about it with confidence, um so that people, so that I'm not, if I sound in my voice when I'm telling you what my rates are, if I sound unsure and like, oh, I don't know if I should like ask for that much, then that lack of confidence is going to come through and create the person isn't going to be attracted to your offer. They're going to be questioning it. It might be very subtle, but it's not, it'll happen that way. And so I think working with essences are a really great way to start to be more comfortable with seeing your own value and then being able to say what that value is out loud. So
Being able
gold,
to,
big one. We've talked about it
it
lots of times,
is.
but that's gold is the gem elixir to help you see and appreciate your value and to feel your place in the world, and that has value in the context of everything else.
And I'm feeling like right now, I'm feeling that that chalice, that beautiful golden chalice of calendula coming forward, because the calendula is coming out of, our third chakra. And in order to relate to others, we have to activate our third chakra and be able to connect that with our voice. And so here I am. This is who I am, and this is how I can serve. It's so important to be able to bring that voice forward, to bring that voice out. And I think calendula and gold together would be really a beautiful combination to be working with this particular topic. This is a really, deep and lifelong practice that we've stepped into, that you listeners are probably thinking about or doing, or, that you can be at all different places. This is such important work that we're doing in our families, in our communities, and in our worlds, that to be able to do it with a greater alignment. Nobody's getting forced. Nobody, there's only open-hearted offerings and generosity in this world. And also, how do we do it in a way that's sustainable, that really works? These are some of the topics that we're going to be delving into in the mentoring group. We're hoping that this conversation and talking about some essences and talking about this whole challenge that, our listener has presented us this question of, like, how do you get started in a practice? So it's not really that easy of an answer to answer. It's something that takes some time and some support and some community. And that's why we were inspired to bring this together. So I hope that this has given you some food for thought. And if you're interested to find out more about this offering, we're starting live meetings on May 1st, and we'll be running them periodically. And hopefully you can check out this round, and if this round doesn't work for you in this moment, you'll be able to join us in another group. um, but we really hope that you get support for helping other people.
Yeah, and I wanted to just mention that the professional practice mentoring group that we're talking about, you can find information about it at our website, the floweressencestudies.com. But it's also not just about business. It is about bringing those cases, um, your client cases, to for discussion and for feedback, and the intricacies of working with clients in general. So those things that are very specific to a flower essence practitioner, and a way to get feedback and validation and direction after you've done your training, but then you know, this is a way to keep that going. So I don't know if anyone else really offering that right now or ever. And of course, we're open to practitioners that have trained anywhere. It doesn't have to be from our school. If you've done Alaskan training, if you've done Bach training, if you've done any other kind of Delta Gardens training, to learn about the flower essences, this would be the next great logical step to take to start to build your practice. And because we're all versed in all of those essences, we're not a single essence educator. It all, we can speak to those. So I think that is another really unique aspect of our offering.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks, listener, for being part of this family, being part of this Flower Essence family. And, we may not have met you yet, but we really appreciate you. We really appreciate your listening. We really appreciate you sharing this podcast with someone else because you know that there's at least one other person that you're thinking of right now that's like, hey, this person could really, use the flowers or would like to be interested in this. So we appreciate all of that. We appreciate you helping us get the word out about flower essences and how important they are for our well-being. And thank you, thank you, thank you, patrons, for helping to support this podcast. Because without you, how would we do it? We don't know. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been really a pleasure spending this time with you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye now.